All right, everybody, welcome to today's video. And today we're gonna be talking about how to do a deadlift primarily for CrossFit training. Deadlift, it's a hip hinge pattern, really good to translate over into cleans and snatches and just develops overall good body strength. So we're gonna start with how to actually do a deadlift, how I like to teach the deadlift. So I like to teach the deadlift top down because I think it's a lot easier for beginners to learn the deadlift top down. But a deadlift's never top down, it's always bottom up, but I have a workaround. So we're just gonna start with an empty barbell. So we're gonna start by putting our feet around hip width apart, okay? And we're gonna grab the bar a thumb length away from our thighs. That's typically the grip width that you like to go with. So we start with our shoulders down and back, arms straight, looking to the horizon, soft bend the knees, stick your butt back, weight in your heels, keep that barbell nice and close, touching your knees. That's the first part. That's the top part of the deadlift. So when I go from the top part, I sit my butt back, weight in my heels or midfoot here, keeping that barbell close to protect my spine. From here, I'm gonna drop my chest and hips same time to mid shin, still maintaining that tension in my hamstrings. As I come up, I push the ground away, chest and hips rise at the same time, and I finish through with my glutes, okay? So ideally, the barbell should be moving in a straight line the entire way through in this deadlift set. Now, you wanna make sure that you're getting out of the way of the bar. The bar's not moving around you. So common fault is bending the knees too early and having to put the bar around you and having to pull it around the knees as you come up. You wanna get out of the way of the bar. So it's always sitting back, feeling the stretch in your hamstrings, coming down to shins, okay? Still over top of the bar, push the ground away, finish through with your glutes. Okay. So now we're gonna go on to how to set up for a deadlift coming from the ground up. Like I said, I teach the deadlift top down because it's easier for a newer athlete to get into the position you need at the bottom, starting from the top. For most newer athletes, people kind of figuring out the deadlift for the first time, or if people have lower back pain when they are doing deadlift, it typically comes from not being in the proper position or not having the right muscle activation, the right tension at the bottom, and they get hurt off the first deadlift. Normally, you're not really gonna get injured off the second to 10th plus deadlift in your set. It's always off the first go, where you're nice and relaxed, easy at the bottom, and then you go from 0 to 100% muscle activation. Try to practice getting the tension on the bar before you lift. Now the way to do that, if you're not really sure how to do that, is doing something what I call an air deadlift. So I set up to the barbell around hip width apart, okay? Shoulders down and back, and I pretend to have the barbell in my hands, okay? So I pretend to have soft bend the knees, sit back, stretching my hamstrings here, load my hips, drop my chest and hips same time, and I just grab the bar. Now I have the tension I need at the bottom to just rise up. I sit back, still load the hamstrings, load the hips, boom, come through. We wanna keep that bar close again because we wanna protect our spine. Squeezing our shoulder blades together here will protect our spine, keep the tension we need to make this weight feel lighter than it actually is. If you go from 0 to 100% muscle activation, the bar will feel heavy. Right, you'll put a lot of pressure on you. You'll go from like a yanking feeling, you'll like, oh, when you pick up the barbell for the first time. It's not fun. And you'll probably get injured off lighter weight than you can actually handle. So make sure that you can do an air deadlift down if you're not really sure what the tension feeling should feel like. And once you get good enough at it, you can just set up, go loose at the bottom, tension up, shoulder blades together, stretching your hamstrings, boom, come right up, and then come back down. Now that we talked about what kind of tension you need and how to get the tension at the bottom, let's talk about whether or not you believe that you have enough tension at the bottom. First big thing, if you don't have enough tension at the bottom, most likely you're experiencing some sort of lower back pain when you deadlift. As you increase the weight more and more and more, you are eventually going to have some pain associated with lifting the barbell because there's gonna be shearing force on your spine. Just gonna happen. So another way to kind of figure out whether or not you have this problem is if your hips kind of shoot up before you lift the bar. So what that kind of looks like, this typically happens with beginner lifters, intermediate lifters, where they get really jazzed up, fired up for a deadlift, but they end up extending their knees too quickly without the bar moving. So from what it looks like, we set up, we get jazzed up, we're ready, we hit the bar, we're ready, we get really fired up, and then we extend, boom. Okay, and our hips rise too quickly. When that happens, you are using your leg muscles, but the bar isn't moving. Okay, you're extending your legs, you're pushing the ground away, but the bar hasn't moved. All that's happened is the bar stayed still and then just hips shoot up. When this happens and the bar is going to move, the only thing you're gonna pick it up with is your lower back. So a good way to combat this, another way to feel the tension is actually have this falling backwards feeling. Okay, so when I set up for my deadlift, I try to get tension and try to fall backwards. Because when I set up and I have tension and I fall backwards, I fall back, but I end up standing up. So that falling backwards feeling is going to help you lift this bar. So instead of getting jazzed up, going for the big yank on the deadlift, take your time, set your bar, set the tension in your upper back, your hamstrings, your glutes, your whole body, and just rise and fall backwards. So what that's gonna look like, you're gonna set up, set, shake it out, fall back, go. And then I can just complete the set because it's easier to get to the tension we need at the bottom, starting from the top. Okay, so we talked about a fault with the hips shooting up too quickly. That's coming from not having enough tension at the bottom. Another fault that typically happens, I actually find this happens a lot with runners, people or sports that are predominantly running, soccer players, is that they're a little too quad dominant with their deadlift. So what that kind of looks like, you just set up at the bottom, they set up, chest up, knees forward. And this is kind of how they look like. They put all the pressure into their quads here and they look up and they try to lift the bar with their quads. Also, this happens with people that are guarding against their lower back, so they kind of like lower their hips down, take their posterior chain completely out of the lift. Now, I'm not saying that this way of doing a deadlift is incorrect, but you might be in a better position if you had a trap bar deadlift, because a trap bar deadlift is a little bit more of a squatting or quad, like anterior chain focused deadlift. So you might be in a better position. It might be more advantageous to do a trap bar deadlift. But with a barbell deadlift, for CrossFitters, we want to improve the deadlift for cleans, snatches, sumo deadlift high pulls, kettlebell swings, for jumping, our feet in a hip width position. So we want to make sure we're loading our posterior chain, making sure the bar we get out of the way of the barbell as it rises up in order to hit the lift. So instead of, if you're more of an endurance athlete and you want to start doing deadlifts to improve your running capacity, use a trap bar deadlift. Or if you want to start doing CrossFit or you want to start using a barbell, you're going to have to get your knees out of the way and start loading your posterior chain, because that's probably what's really weak on you. We set up, we have that falling backwards feeling, nice and tight, and we just rise up, push the ground away, sit back, put it down properly. Let's talk about foot position. So the difference between a conventional deadlift or a sumo deadlift. My take, depends on your goals. What is your goal? What are you trying to do? Why are you doing this exercise? If you were a power lifter, now your anatomy is going to play a big role in how you lift the barbell. For me, I'm a fairly long guy. Like, my limbs are really, really long. I would be an advantage to do a sumo deadlift stance if I were to do powerlifting. So a sumo deadlift is sitting nice and wide, okay, as I pick up the bar. The reason for that is because of my long limbs. I want to shorten the range of motion as much as I can to lift as much weight as possible up to my hips or even a little further down. So that's the advantage of doing a sumo deadlift. For CrossFit, consider doing a conventional. I find it's a little more powerful, but especially for CrossFitters, you are going to want to put your feet around hip width apart. It is just gonna translate over into the cleans, the snatches, a lot more things that we do or CrossFitters do in their workouts. So if you wanna get more bang for your buck, my personal take is that the conventional barbell deadlift is the better option. That being said, it will be an advantage to change up the stimulus. So if you are a CrossFitter and you want to train this exclusively, that's okay, but you are going to miss out on some adaptation that requires you to do a sumo deadlift. So sometimes I program sumo deadlifts just to change things up. Typically the conventional deadlift is where you want to sit. So again, that's like feet hip width apart. If we do it like with the air deadlift, soft bend the knees, sit back, grab the bar, set, fall back, stand up. Okay, now we're gonna talk about grip. There are 3 grips really that people kind of use. You can use a regular grip where you just grab the bar and you just don't really care. It's overhand grip. This is not the most ideal grip, but it's kind of the one you use as a beginner. You know, you're just kind of feeling it the way you just want to get the form down on your hips. It tends to be fairly slippery on a regular grip. Next one is the mixed grip. This is a pretty popular one, overhand and one underhand grip, but it's a mixed grip. You're holding this position. Now, if the barbell does slip out of one hand that way, it'll slip back into the other one. That's the advantage. It's a little more solid compared to the regular grip. However, it does offer some imbalance, like you will train your lats a little bit differently. There is a higher risk of a bicep tear in this arm palm up grip. So you run that risk. The third one is going to be called the hook grip. So people, when they hook grip, they just wrap their hand over and they lock their thumb in place. Or actually, sorry, it's here. They wrap their thumb underneath the bar, index and middle finger like that. This is going to be the most solid grip you have. You're going to hold onto the bar because you're essentially pressing your thumb into the bar and you're holding that bar as hard as you can. This is a really good one. Plus, it translates over into Olympic weightlifting. If you're trying to get better at Olympic weightlifting, I'd recommend using the hook grip. For my deadlifts, like to do the mixed grip. That's because I do hook grip on my clean pulls, my clean snatches. I try my best with that. Or sometimes I use straps. You know, people have an opinion about straps and whether they're good or not. My opinion, do what you want. You can do whatever you want. If you want to go above your 1 rep max and your grip's not really there yet, you still gotta train. You still gotta train heavy. So toss on some straps. I use straps every once in a while when I'm just not really feeling it because I wanna have fun and I wanna lift weight. So I'll do what I want. All right, let's pick up this weight. Try it again. So do mixed grip. So overhand, underhand grip, grab it, sit back, tension, here. Take a deep breath in, sit back, brace. And you drop it. That's how you do a deadlift. So this is my take on how to do a barbell deadlift to train for CrossFit. That's the big caveat. Now you've noticed I didn't really talk about, the rounding at the back. This is a popular powerlifting technique because again, I want my deadlift to translate over into other things. I want it to translate over into cleans, into snatches. There's gotta be a reason why you do a certain movement. Now, if your reason is to lift as much weight as possible, then yeah, maybe the flex position would give me a better position in a brace position. Going wider with my foot stance would make it a lot easier to lift as much weight as possible, but I don't really care about that. I care about getting my snatch and my clean and jerk up because I do that a lot in CrossFit competitions. My deadlift will remain the way it is and that's okay. I'm okay with where my deadlift's at in terms of overall weight. I just want it to translate into other things. So always remember, it doesn't matter what you do, it depends on why you do it, okay? So hope you enjoyed that video. If you wanna tell me what I did wrong, or if you have a better way to how to teach a deadlift, you can toss it into the comments below. Always appreciate the feedback, love to hear it, but this is the best way I found to teach a beginner or a CrossFitter how to deadlift. Okay, so let's pick up this weight, see how well we can do here. See you next time.